In this video, I'm going to show you how to recreate the homepage and modern semi-transparent full-screen navigation of an award-winning website with the power of Elementor Pro. Hello, I'm your host Casino from Casino.com. I'm the Digital Alchemist, and before we get started, just know that the idea here is to show you how to recreate an award-winning design so that you can understand how limitless you are with Elementor Pro. Oh, and by the way, you'll find the timestamps of the various parts of this tutorial in the description below. Now, if you want to level up your game and create professional websites for which you can ask more money, make sure you watch till the end. Now, you may find that this video is long, but hey, you don't create professional stuff in 5 minutes. Now, of course, the idea is to give you the how-to so that you can build your own version in the future, and who knows, yours may be even better. But let's give credit where it's due, and the designer of this beautiful website have done an outstanding job. So are you ready? So let's move to the computer. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at what we're going to build. So this is the Novi website, and as you can see, we have a beautiful video background. Now, it may seem a bit choppy because I have so many tabs open, but it's really smooth actually when you have a regular use. So as you can see, when I hover over the sections here, I have an overlay. And when I click on the menu, I have this beautiful and sleek transparent navigation that slides in with some subtle animations. So let me close that back, and there you go. And this is our version. This is what we're going to build today. And as you can see, when I hover over the blocks, we have the same overlay feature. And when I click on the menu, we have our beautiful semi-transparent navigation with some subtle animations. And just like the original mobile version on the website, we are of course going to build our own. Now, in order to recreate this beautiful homepage and slick navigation, we'll need a bunch of free tools as well as a premium one, and you may have guessed it, it's Elementor Pro, which I've recommended time and time again on this channel. In terms of pricing, it starts at $49 per year for one website, up to $199 for 1,000 websites, which in my opinion is the best bang for your buck. So if you're interested, you find the link in the description below. Now, this is an affiliate link, so it means that I do get a commission if you purchase after clicking on my link, but I only recommend Elementor Pro because I love this tool and use it every day. And in turn, commissions help me support this channel and keep on creating free content. Okay, this is what we're going to start with, so we'd better get to work. Step 1, prerequisites. So the first thing you want to do is install a WordPress theme, so go to Appearance, Themes, and you may install any theme you want, but I suggest you install Astra, the free version, which I've used for this tutorial. So all you have to do is click on Add New, and then type Astra, and then just click on Install and then Activate. Next, we want to install some plugins. So for that, go to Plugins, Add New, and I've already installed the plugin, so we go a little bit faster. So basically, I've installed Elementor, Elementor Add-on Elements, and Elementor Pro. So it's the same principle. You click on Add New, and for Elementor, you just type Elementor, and same thing for Elementor Add-on Elements. The only difference is for Elementor Pro, which you need to install with the zip file. So for that, let me show you. Just click on Add New, then click on Upload Plugin, choose File, and just add the zip file. Now, once you've installed and activated all plugins, you will see Elementor Add-ons element here on the left-hand side. So just click on that. Okay, so by default, all options are activated. We want to click on each option to deactivate it. The only one you want to keep is this one here, wrapper link. Okay, so once you get that, click on Save Changes. Okay, next we want to add a menu. So for that, I already created a few pages, and then go to Appearance, Menus. And as you can see here, I've already created a menu, so I named it Main Menu. I take the primary menu option here and I added all the pages. So if you want to mimic what I'm doing in this tutorial, you can just create Home, Services, Stories, Team, and Contact. But don't worry about it because we're not going to build those pages. We're only going to build the home page and the navigation. So once you're happy, click on Save Menu. And next, let's go to Pages. So click on All Pages. And like I mentioned, I've already created a bunch of pages. So if you're starting fresh, just click on Add New and create the home page. I'm just going to click on Edit. Okay, and give it a name. So I called it Home. And because we're using Astra, I can disable the title here in the sidebar. So tick Disable Title, then click on Update. Okay, and next you can click on Edit with Elementor. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is to open the navigator here at the bottom. So click on the icon. So this is what happened when you click, you get the navigator here, or you can use Command I on a Mac or Control plus I guess, on a PC, on a Windows PC or Linux PC. Okay, so with the navigator open, we can get started. So first I'm going to click on the plus sign here and select a structure with 3 columns. Okay, next I'm going to change the settings here on the left hand side. So it's going to be full width. The height is going to be a minimum height of 100 VH. The column position is stretch. Okay, next I can move on to the style tab. So I'm going to click on background and I'm going to click on classic. Then I'm going to choose an image. I've already added a few images. You only need one big image basically and a logo. So I'm just going to add my image. Okay, so this is going to be my background image. Repeat, no repeat, and I want to set this to cover. Next, I click on background overlay and then click on classic, and I'm going to add a color. So you can add any color you want, but basically if you want to use the same colors, you can pause this video and write down those colors here. So I'm going to use the first one, primary. Okay, and the opacity is going to be 0.5%. So if I make this higher, you can see anything. So I'm going to keep it at 0.5. Okay, next we want to add some CSS code. Now don't worry, you're not going to have to code. I will put all the code in the companion blog post and you find the link in the description below. But basically there are many places you can add CSS code. So we're going to add it at page level. So for that, click on the gear icon here at the bottom left corner where it says settings. I'm just going to click on that, then go to the advanced tab, and here you have custom CSS. And I'm just going to paste the code. So if you take a look here, we have one block here and one block here and one block here and one block here. And when it goes into responsive mode, the system has to know how to behave. And basically, that's what we're doing with this code. So we have a class called myMain and a class called mySecondary. So myMain is going to be the first column here, and the secondary are going to be the blocks, but you understand better in a moment. So we have various code for the tablet, for the mobile, and for the desktop. For the time being, just copy and paste it here. And in order to keep things organized, what I like to do in the navigator, I like to double click on the name of the section. And I'm just going to put a reminder that CSS is at page level, so that at least I know what's going on. And when I'm trying to look for code, I don't have to look everywhere, because basically you can add CSS code in pretty much any widget, any element. So I like to put where my CSS code is, so at least I know. So click on update to save your work. Okay, so now we can start working on our columns. So here in the navigator, I'm just going to expand the section here, and I see my 3 columns. I'm going to select column 1, and actually I'm going to rename all the columns. So that's going to be column 1, then double click column 2, and the third one is going to be column 4. And you'll understand why in a moment. So let me select column 1, and then I can start styling it. So where it says vertical align, I'm going to select middle. Okay, next for the style tab, there's nothing to change. Let's go to the advanced tab, and in terms of padding, I'm going to put 100 pixels everywhere, but then I'm going to unlink the values and just change the left value to 160. Okay, let me update my work. Next, I want to add a class called myMain. If you recall, this is the class for the first column that we added in the CSS. So make sure you write it exactly like that, my-main. Next, click on the widgets icon here at the top. Okay, and we're going to drag a heading. So let me drag it here in the middle. And I'm just going to change the text to something else. Now, of course, you can write whatever you want. There's going to be an H1. Then I go to the style tab. I want to use white color. And in terms of typography, I'm using Roboto. The size is going to be 45 pixels. And the weight is going to be 300. Okay, let me update. Okay, next, let's take care of our column number 2. So I'm going to click on column number 2 here in the navigator, and then I can move on to the Style tab, then Border, I'm going to select a solid border. Next, I click on Unlink the values, and I'm going to use 0 top, 1 on the right, 0 at the bottom, and 1 on the left. And in terms of color, I'm going to select white, but then I'm going to drag the opacity more or less in the middle. Okay, next I can move on to the Advanced tab, and I'm just going to add a 0 padding on all sides. Next, once again, I'm going to click on the widgets icon here at the top left, and I'm going to drag an inner section right here. Okay, so first of all, let me change the content width to full width. Then I can go to the Advanced tab, and I'm just going to unlink the margin value, so it's going to give it a 0 top and bottom margin, which is what I want. Next, I'm going to right click on the second column, and I'm just going to delete it because we don't need it. Next, I want to select the column within my inner section. So let me just pause here. I know it's not the best practice to have column and then intersection and some more columns, but in order to achieve this type of layout, it's really complex. So either you can do it all with CSS or JavaScript, but if you want to do it with Elementor Pro only, this is the way I found to do it. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's make sure we select our column here. And if you want to be sure you select the right element, we can look here in the navigator. So I got my column number 2, which is this one. And within the column, I have an intersection. And within that intersection, I have a column, which is this one here. So the first thing I want to do is change the vertical align to bottom. And next, I want to go to the Advanced tab, and I'm going to add a CSS class. And that class is going to be my secondary. And now you understand why we used that CSS code in the previous step. Now it's half the page. The next thing we want to do is to add some padding. So we're going to add a 50 pixels padding all around. Next, I want to add a button. So once again, I click on the widgets icon. I'm going to drag a button here, and I'm going to call it services, because this is the first page. And of course, I would add a link. You can add the link to the page, but we don't really need it here. Okay, next let me move on to the Style tab, and the first thing I want to do is click on the background color, and I'm going to drag the opacity all the way down so we can see what is in the button. And next I click on typography, and where it says transform, I'm going to click on uppercase. Okay. Next, let me click on hover, and where it says hover animation, I'm going to add a float animation. So as you can see, now it looks better. You know, it's a button at least. Next, I want to select my column. So once again, I'm going to check here in the navigator, and I'm going to click on the column. Then I'll move on to the Style tab. So the first thing you need to do is click on background, and we're just going to click on classic, but we're not going to add anything. Now, why do we do that? If we don't do that, there's no tab called background overlay, and we need that. So once again, click on classic where it says background. And now as you can see, we have a tab called background overlay. So let me click on background overlay. And then when it's normal, I'm just going to give it any color and drag the opacity all the way down. And then click on the hover tab, click on classic, and now choose the color you want to use. So I'm going to use that blue color here, and the opacity is set at 0.5 by default. So now when I hover over the block, as you can see, there's a difference in color, which is what we wanted. And the last thing we want to do with this column is still here in the Style tab, we have the Elementor add-ons plugin wrapper link. So click on enable link, and then you can add any link. I'm just going to put the pound sign, but of course you can just type the name of the page you want to add. And now when I hover over the block, you can see the pointer changes its link, so you can click on the column. So you can click either on the button or on the column. Okay, so now that we have our inner section working the way we want, we can just right click on the inner section in the navigator, and I'm just going to duplicate. Now, in order to be able to follow, I'm just going to rename those sections. So this one is going to be intersection 1, and this one is going to be intersection 2. So let me select intersection 1 here. And now I can go to the Style tab, go to border, and I'm going to add a solid border. Let me unlink the value, and it's going to be 0 top, 0 right, 1 at the bottom, and 0 left. And for the color, once again, we're going to use the white color and then drag the opacity more or less in the middle. And now let me select inner section 2. Let's go to the style tab and let's repeat the operation with a slight difference. So select solid, but then I'm going to put a 0 on all sides. Now you may be asking why put 0 on all sides? Well, because we're going to use some of those values for the responsive part, so tablet and the mobile, and you want to be sure that there's a 0 border on the desktop mode. Okay, so now if I scroll down, we can see we have our 2 blocks here, and if I want to see a preview, so this is what we want. Now, of course, we will get rid of this header here. We'd have a transparent header, but for the time being, that's the way it goes. So let's go back. And now that our column is working and ready, we can just, so let me collapse this. I'm just going to right click on column number 2 and click on duplicate. Then I'm going to double click on the duplicate and change name to column 3. And now you understand why we skipped column number 3, so that it goes a little bit faster. So with our column number 3 selected here in the navigator, let's go to the style tab, then border, and we're just going to change the values here. So it's going to be 0 on the top, 1 on the right, 0 at the bottom, and 0 on the left hand side. And for the rest, it stays the same. So let's click on update. Okay, now we can resize our columns. So let me drag the columns all the way to the right hand side. And the first column is going to be 50% of width. Okay, the second column should be 20.5. Now you may play with these values, but this is what I found worked best. And the second should be also 20.5%. Okay, once again, let's update to save our work. Okay, so now if you look, we have all the blocks here, but there are some things we need to change. Now, as you can see, we have the same buttons over here, and if you put some links on the columns, it will go to the same place. So one thing you should do is to start changing things. So first, let me select the bottom button here. I'm going to call it team, and then I would change the link here. And then the next thing I would do is I would select the column. So this is column number 2, inner section number 2, if you're still following, and the column within is this one. So I would go to style, the wrapper link, and I would change the link. Now do this for the third one also, and then there's a slight difference for the fourth one. So for the fourth one, we actually want to get rid of the button, so we're going to click on the widgets icon here on top, and I'm just going to look for a block quote. So let me tap block quote, and I'm just going to drag the block quote here on top of the button. I can remove the button, so I'm just going to delete it. And with the block quote selected, I can start styling it. So I'm just going to put some random lorem ipsum text here. Author is going to be Twitter. The view is going to be icon only. Next, I move to the style tab. So the text color is going to be white. Same for the author. Now the button is going to be a size of 2. I want to use a custom color. So the background color is going to be white and the text color is going to be blue. Let me click on update. And yeah, I forgot the border. So the border width should be 0. Okay, so looking good. So let's take a look at what we started with. Let's refresh the page, and there you go. So it's starting to take shape. It's starting to look good. Now, if you look at the bottom of the page, you will see a custom footer. Now, I've already done that before starting the tutorial because this tutorial is long enough. So I'm not going to spend time on this. I've already covered that in other tutorials. Okay, now let's take care of the tablet mode. So I'm just going to click on the responsive mode button here. Let's move on to the tablet mode. Okay, so it's looking pretty messy. So let me collapse everything here so that it's neat. Let me click on the column number 1, go to the layout tab, and I'm going to give it a width of 100%. Then column 2, layout, 50%. Column 3, layout, 50%. And column 4, which we're not going to use on the tablet mobile version, but I'm still going to give it a 100% width. Then move on to the advanced tab, responsive, and I'm going to hide on tablet and hide on the mobile. And now if you take a look, this is what we have. So it's starting to take shape. We just need to take care of the borders here. But before we do that, let's go back to Elementor, click on column number 1, and where it says vertical align on the layout tab, I'm going to select bottom. Okay, and next click on advanced, and I'm going to give it a padding of 50 pixels. Next, I want to select my text here, typography, and I'm going to give it a size of 38 pixels. Of course, you can play with the values that suit you best. Click on update to save our work. Next, let's take care of column number 2. So let me collapse that. Click on column number 2 in the navigator. Then move on to the style tab, border. So we still have a solid border. We're going to give it 0 everywhere, then unlink the value and just add a 1 pixel to the right. So 1 pixel border to the right, and the color stays the same. Next, I want to expand column number 2. Click on inner section number 1. Go to the style tab, border, and same thing. So 0 everywhere. And then I'm going to unlink the values, and I'm going to give it a top border of 1 and a bottom border of 1. So 1 0 1 0. And we're going to click on intersection 2, go to the style tab, border, you know the drill now, 0 everywhere, unlink the values, and it's going to be 0 0 and then 1 for the bottom, so 1 border for the bottom and 0. And we want to repeat the same operation for column number 3, so let me collapse column 2, go to column 3, style, border, 0 everywhere, unlink the values and add 1 pixel to the right, and then select intersection 1 of column 3, style tab, border, 0, unlink the values, 1 pixel border at the top, 1 at the bottom, and then intersection number 2 of column 3, style, border, 0, unlink the values, and 1 pixel border at the bottom. And now if we take a look, as you can see, it looks much better. But I can see I have a dark line here, so we forgot to put some color. So let me go back, and as you can see here, we forgot to put the color. So I'm just going to add the white color and then drag it more or less in the middle. Let me copy this. So that's for inner section number 2 of column 3, and we need to do the same for intersection 2 of column 2, if you're still following. And if you don't, just pause the video and look at the screen. Basically, intersection number 2, style, border, and as you can see, we forgot to put the color. So as usual, we want to put the opacity in the middle. Okay, and now if I take a look, it's looking much better. Okay, so let's go back. Now we need to take care of the padding here of the various elements. So we need to select each column within the intersection. So this is intersection 1 with only 1 column. Then go to advanced. I'm just going to put 0, unlink the value, and then I want 20 pixels at the bottom and 40 pixels on the left hand side. And we're going to do that for each column. So 0, 20, and 40. 0, 20, 40. And for this one, it's going to be a bit different. So it's going to be 20 all around, but then I'm going to unlink the value and put a 0 at the top here. Okay, so let's take a look, and it's looking good. Let's go back. Let me update, save my work. And now let's take care of the mobile version. So click on the responsive mode, go to mobile, and select the column, double check here in the navigator, so column number 1, then go to the advanced tab, and I want to give it a 20 pixel all around. And then I'm going to select the text and change the typography. That's going to be 24 pixels. And where it says line height, I'm going to select pixels and then type 35. Next, I want to select column number 2. So once again, I double check here in the navigator. So it's a column within the intersection. So with that column selected, let's go to the layout tab and vertical line in the middle. Okay, and next we want to go to advanced and we're going to put a padding of 0 and link the values and give the left one 20 pixels. Now you want to do the same thing for all columns, so click on this column, go to layout, vertical align, middle, then advanced padding, so I'm going to unlink the values, 20 pixels on the left. Same for the third one, layout, vertical align, middle, advanced, unlink the values, and then 20 pixels on the left. And the last one here is going to be a bit different, so let me select that column, go to layout, vertical line, middle, advanced, and this one is going to be 20 pixels all around. So let's save our work and let's take a look. Okay, so in terms of spacing, it's looking good. Let's go back. Let me select the block quote, and I'm just going to change the size of the text. So let's try 12, and then in terms of line height, let's try 18 pixels. Okay. Yep, looking good. Now we need to take care of some of the borders here. So let's go back. Now let's collapse everything in the navigator here. So everything is clean. Let's select column number 2. Next, let's go to the style tab, border, and our border is going to be 0 all around. Next, let's expand the column, click on intersection 1, style tab, border, and this time let's type 0 everywhere, unlink the values and give it a 1 top border. And let's do the same thing for intersection 2. So intersection 2, border, unlink the values, and 1 for the top. Okay, next we want to select column number 3, so at column level, style tab, border, and once again 0 everywhere. Then let's expand this, click on intersection 1, border, unlink the values, and it's going to be 1 top border and the rest is 0. And then slightly different for intersection number 2, style tab, border, unlink the value, and this time is going to be 1 pixel border at the top, 0 right, 1 at the bottom, and 0 on the left hand side. Let's click on update to save our work, and let's take a look. And as you can see, it's looking beautiful. Step 3, the full screen navigation. So within the dashboard, go to templates, pop-ups, click on add a new pop-up, and I'm going to call it pop-up full screen nav. Click on create template. Okay, but we don't want any of this, so I'm just going to close it, and I'm going to add a section with 1 column. So first of all, I want it to be full width. I want the height to be a minimum height of 100 VH. I want the column position to be stretched. Okay, so that was for the section, but now we need to take care of the pop-up settings. So for that, we go to the bottom left corner and click on the gear icon. So click on settings, and we want to give it a width of 100 VW. We want the height to be custom, and we want it to be 100 VH. Content position should be top, horizontal position center, and vertical in center also. Overlay, we can leave it, but we don't want the close button because we're going to add our own. Entrance animation, we want sliding right, and we want slide out right. As an exit animation, we leave the animation duration at 1.2 by default. Next, we move on to the style tab and then click on background type, classic, and let's add a color. So I'm just going to select a color, and I'm going to actually drag the opacity a little bit below the middle, but you need to play with those values depending on the color you're using and the image you have behind, but I find this to work pretty much fine. Okay, so as you can see now, it's semi-transparent, which is what we wanted. Okay, next move on to the advanced tab, and we want to give it a padding of 0. And now let's use the navigator. So we have our column. Actually, let's right click and duplicate this column. So once again, I'm going to name it column number 1 and column number 2. So let's click on column number 1, then go to advanced, give it 70 pixels all around, unlink the values, Then it's going to be 70, 90, 70, and 160 for the first column. Then select the second column and go to the Advanced tab at 70 and link the values, and it's going to be 70, 60, 70, 90. So now we can start adding the items to the columns. So let's take a look at our example. So this is the pop-up we want to achieve, and we have two columns here, and you can see we have a logo, we have some text, we have some social icons, and then we have some mention here at the bottom. So let's do this. So first of all, let's drag an image. We're going to style all of that later. Then go back to the widgets, and then we have a text editor. Next, let's go back. Let me type social, and we got social icons here that I can put here at the bottom. And then we're going to add a button. So I'm just going to drag it here. So these are our elements that we're going to start in a moment. But now let's take a look at the right hand side. So we have a button here, we have a navigation here, and we got some text here. Actually, it's a list. So once again, let me drag a button. So I'm going to drag a button here. Next, I want to drag a navigation menu. So I tap nav menu. I'm just going to drag it here at the bottom. And then we want to add a list. So let's type list. It's an icon list. So once again, I'm going to drag it. Now, as you can see, if you look at the model, it's evenly spaced. If you look at this vertically, I mean. So let's go back, and with the navigator, once again, I'm going to collapse everything so everything is clean. With column 1 selected, let's go back to the layout tab, and where it says vertical line, you want to select space between, and now it's evenly spaced. And let's do the same thing for column 2, layout tab, vertical line, space between. Okay, so now we can start styling all those elements. So first of all, let's click on the image, click on choose image. I already added the logo, but you can add your own. You need to align it to the left and link it to a custom URL. I'm going to click on dynamic tags, and I'm just going to select the site URL. So that's easier. Then move on to the style tab. And for the specific logo, I'm going to select a width of 120 pixels. Now, once again, that may differ for you, but it's important that you keep the same sizes for the full screen navigation and for the header, as we'll see in a moment. So 120 pixels here. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, good. Next, let's start our text editor. So let me click on the edit icon, and I'm just going to paste the text here. Okay, and next I want to style it. So let me go to style. The color is going to be white, but at more or less 50%. Okay, and before we move on to the next item, click on advanced motion effects, and then we're going to add a fade in at 1300 milliseconds. Why 1300 milliseconds? Well, it's 1.3 seconds, and if you recall, for the pop-up, when it opens, it takes 1.2 seconds, and then we want that animation to arrive slightly after, so 100 milliseconds after. That's why. Okay, next I want to edit my text here, which is barely visible, so click on the edit icon. Okay, next I'm going to click on the style tab. Text color should be white, but with the opacity more or less in the middle, and typography is going to be 16. Next, let's go to the advanced tab, motion effects. Entrance animation should just be a fade in. Okay, and next let's move on to the social icons. So let me select the social icons. I'm just going to change this all around. It's not really important, but just for the sake of this tutorial. Okay, I want the shape to be circle. The alignment should be on the left hand side. Then let's move to the style tab. I want custom colors. So the primary color is going to be any color, but just drag the opacity all the way down. The secondary color should be white, but once again with the opacity in the middle. Next, we want to add a solid border of 1 pixel all around, and we want the same white, but with the opacity in the middle. Okay, and now when you click on the icon hover, we want to change this to white for the primary color, white for the border color, and for the secondary color, we're just going to select a blue color. So now when you hover over the elements, you can see that you can interact with it. Okay, next move on to the advanced tab, motion effects, and once again, we want a fade in. Okay, last but not least, let's select our button, and I'm going to just type created by O or whatever you want to write. Then of course you can put a link. I want this to be aligned on the left hand side. I don't want any icon. So now let's move on to the style tab. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of the background. So I'm going to drag the opacity all the way down. Next, click on typography, and the size is going to be 12 pixels at 300 in terms of weight. Next, I'm going to unlink the value so we get 0 pixels everywhere. So let me click on publish to save my work. So the first time you click on publish, it's asking you where do you want to publish this. Just click on add conditions, include entire site by default. Click next, next, save and close. No need to do more for the moment. Okay, let's move on to column number 2 and let's style the items. So first of all, let's click on our button here. Then I'm going to align it on the right hand side. I'm going to call it menu. I want it to be small, so I'm going to add an icon. Let me just type close. I'm going to select this one. Of course, you can add your own, but for the sake of this tutorial, we're just going to use that one. Then icon position should be after at 12 in terms of icon spacing. Next, I want to click on style. Then, as usual, I'm going to get rid of the background here. Then click on the typography. We're going to give it 13 pixels at 300 in terms of weight. And for the letter spacing, let's use 3. And where it says transform, we want to use uppercase. And if we go back to the content tab where it says link, we want to click on dynamic tags, then scroll all the way to pop-up. And now you want to click on the wrench icon here. And we're going to select close pop-up because that's the behavior we expect when you click on the X here. Next, move to the advanced tab, motion effects, and then we want to add a fade in at 1300 milliseconds and click on update. Next, let's take care of our menu. So I'm just going to drag the navigator here. Let's click on our nav menu and then I can start styling it. So it should be vertical. We want to align it on the right hand side. The pointer should be set to none. Then the align should be aside, toggle none. Then let's move on to the style tab. So typography should be 21 pixels at, let's say, 400 in terms of weight. The horizontal padding should be 0. Next, I want to change the color here. So it's going to be white, but once again, we're going to drag the opacity more or less in the middle, then move on to the hover tab. And now we want it to be completely white, and same for the active tab. Now click on drop down. And once again, for the text color, we want to give it white, but drag it in the middle. Now for the background color, we want the opacity all the way down. Hover, we want white for the text color and the opacity all the way down for the background color. And same for the active tab. So white for text and transparent for the background. And once again, horizontal padding should be set to 0. Okay, next move on to the advanced tab, motion effects, entrance animation. We want to add a fade in of 200 milliseconds. Next, let's style our list item. So I'm going to get rid of the first 2 elements. Click on the third, remove the icon. and I'm just going to call it legal. Of course, you would put a link to the legal page on your website or GDPR, privacy, or whatever you want to link to. Okay, so next I click on style. I want to align it on the right hand side. Now the icon, I don't really care, there's no icon here. So for the text, I'm going to use our white color with the opacity in the middle. So let me drag this. Okay, and in terms of typography, I'm going to use 12 pixels. Next, click on advanced motion effects, fade in, and this time with 300 milliseconds delay. Click on update. Now let's take a look. And yeah, it looks good. So let's take a look at our example. And this is what we've built. So that's looking pretty good. So now we can take care of the tablet version. So let's go back. Let's go into tablet mode. I'm just going to drag the navigator here so that it's cleaner to work. And first of all, let's go back to our pop-up settings here at the bottom. So I'm just going to click here and just going to make sure that it says default here for both, either default or you just type once again slide in right and slide out right, because I've seen some bugs happening when you don't do that. So either default or this. Okay, and actually while we're at it, let's do the same for the mobile version. So slide in right and slide out right. Okay, so let's go back to our tablet version and let's select column number 1. So let me close this to make it cleaner. Select column number 1, go to advanced, and want to give it a padding of 30 pixels all around. And we want to do the same thing for column number 2. So column number 2, advanced, and 30 pixels. Okay, next I want to select my nav menu here. Then I want to go to style, drop down, and this time the horizontal padding should be 40 pixels. But if you take a look here, it's different because when we look here, the text is aligned on the right hand side. And if you go into tablet mode, it should be here on the right hand side. So you can see here the text is aligned to the right, and we have also a line here. We'll come to that in a moment. But if I go back here, it looks fine. But let's take a look at our example. It doesn't look fine, even though if you go back to the content, we said that it should be aligned to the right. And it seems there is a bug. So I've come up with some CSS code. So for that, just click on the settings gear icon here. Okay, then move on to the advanced tab, click on custom CSS, and then you can go to the companion blog post, copy the CSS code, and of course you'll find the link to this blog post in the description below. So copy the code and just paste it here. And basically what the code does is try to fix this bug. I'm sure it's going to be fixed by itself in the future, but for the time being, this is what I found. So basically, I'm making sure that it's floated to the right, and then it happens the way it should. And then I wanted to mimic this. So let me show you in the original website. Depending on the page where you are, it shows you a line right after the title, and that's what I wanted to mimic. So basically that's what this code does, and it takes care of the various sizes responsively. So for the desktop, the tablet, and the mobile. So all you have to do is copy and paste the code, and of course feel free to just look through the code if you like that. Okay, now let's take care of the mobile version. So in responsive mode, go to mobile. And first we want to select our first column, go to the layout tab, give it 100% width, but then we're not going to use this column in the mobile mode. Now we could put it underneath, we could reverse the order, but for the sake of this tutorial and following the example, we're just going to get rid of this column. So go to advanced, responsive, and hide on mobile. Now this is how it's going to look. Actually, let me click on the eye here so we don't see the first column. It's just within Elementor. It's not changing actually on the front end. In order to hide on the front end, this is what we just did here by clicking on the hide button for hide on mobile. Okay, so now click on column 2 go to the advanced tab, and we're going to give it a 20 pixel padding all around, except for the last one. So click on unlink the values and give it 0 for the left padding. Next, click on the nav menu here, then go to the style tab, drop down, and this time the horizontal padding should be 25. This is just to leave some spacing so we can add that line that I showed you earlier on after the currently active item in the navigation. Okay, so let's take a look, and it's looking good. Step 4, creating the header. So for that, go to Templates, Theme Builder, and as mentioned, I already created a footer, but that's not the topic of this video, which is long enough. And now we're going to create a header. So depending on when you watch this video, maybe you only have the option to use the new theme builder. It changed the aesthetics of how you do it, and there are many more options, but this is not the focus of this video. So I'm just going to click on header, click on add a new header, and I'm going to call it my header. Click on create template. Now we're not going to use any of the pre-made ones, so I'm just going to close that. Click on the plus, and I'm going to add a structure with 2 columns. So I want it to be full width. And then because we're going to use a transparent header, but it's white on white here. So for the time being, I'm going to go to the style tab, background, click on classic, and I'm going to give it a blue colors just so that we can see what we are actually doing. Next, let's go to the advanced tab. I'm going to unlink the padding values, and where it says margin, I'm going to unlink. Then I'm going to put minus 175. I'll tell you why in a moment. But the way to do this is to use 175, then use the cursor on the keyboard to go all the way to the left and add the minus sign. Okay, so you see everything shifted up. This is because it's transparent, you want to shift the content up, otherwise it's just going to be white. You think it's white color, but it's transparent, but you need to shift the content up. Okay, next let's click on our first column here, and where it says vertical align, you want to select middle. Next, you want to go to the advanced tab and give it 70 pixels padding everywhere, then unlink the values, and just like previously, it's going to be 70, 90, 70, 160. Next, click on the second column, go to the advanced tab, give it 70 everywhere once again, then unlink the values, and it's going to be 70, 60, 70, 90 pixels. Okay, so now we can add our logo and button, but if we take a look at the example, that's how it goes. So logo on the left and our button on the right hand side. But instead of recreating everything, I'm just going to go back to the pop-up we created. I'm going to right click on the image, click on copy, then let's go to our first column, right click and paste. As you can see, now we already added the padding, but there was nothing in there. So that's why you see such a dramatic move, but the padding was already there. So let's go back. I'm going to right click on the button, copy, and once again on the right hand side in the column, I'm going to right click and paste. Okay, so I have my button right here, but I need to change a few things. So let me select the button. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go to the content tab, and where you see the icon library, I'm going to click on the icon, and I want to add a different icon. So that's going to be a navicon. So I'm going to use this one, grip lines. Click on insert, because this is the nav I want to actually open the pop-up. Okay, next I want to change the behavior of the pop-up. If you recall, if you click on the wrench icon, because we copied that button, it had a close pop-up behavior. We want to open a pop-up. Okay, and now in the drop-down, I'm just going to type the name of my pop-up. I have only one on this website, so it's pop-up full screen nav. Okay, and now when I will click on this button, it will open the navigation. Okay, before we take a look at what it looks like on the front end, we need to do a couple of things. So make sure you select the section, then go to the advanced tab, and where it says Z index, type 1000. And that's very important, because if you don't do this, the whole header will feel like it disappeared, but that's just because there's something in front of it. So you need to type 1000 here in the Z index. Okay, and next we want to go to the Style tab and we want to click on Background, open our color, and we're going to drag the opacity all the way down because if you recall, we only did this to be able to see what we're doing. So let's click on Publish, and it's going to ask where do you want to display your template. So click on Add Condition, entire site by default, click Save and Close, and that's it. So now let's go back. So this is what we had. Let's refresh, and there you go. So it's looking fine, but actually I see a tiny line here at the top. So let me go back to my section, advanced, and let me play with the values. So I'm going to try to shift it up minus 178. And there you go, works fine. Now you may also need to do this because of course you might have some elements of various sizes. So now you know what to do. Okay, so let's take a look at our menu. So now if I click on menu, as you can see, we have everything in place. We have our logo that's clickable. We have our menu button that we can close. We have our text, social icons. All the elements are in place. I click on menu and it falls back to closing the pop-up. Okay, so now let's take care of the tablet version. So let me go back into responsive mode, tablets, and here where it says margin, so with my section selected, I'm going to unlink the values, I'm going to type 95, go at the front of the 9, add the minus sign, okay, and next I want to select column number 1, and I'm going to give it a padding of 30 pixels all around, and same thing for column number 2, 30 pixels all around. Let me click on update. Now let's go to our front end version. Let me refresh. Okay, and when I open, okay, looking good. But once again, I have a slight line here on top, so I can play with the values. So section, and it's going to be minus 97. Let me go back. Okay, looking better. And as you can see, this is why we use the fading animation, sliding animations, and all of that. Actually, the logo and the menu come on top of the other ones. So you have the illusion that you get the open and close state, and that's working fine. Okay, so now let's go into mobile mode. If I refresh, as you can see, it's not working quite the way we want. So let's go back. Let's go to mobile mode. With our section selected, unlink the margin values on the advanced tab. I'm going to type 87 this time, minus sign. Next, let's select our first column, go to the layout tab, give it a 50% width. Next, I want to go to the advanced tab, unlink the margin values, unlink the padding values, and I'm going to give it a 20 pixels left padding. Next, I want to select the column number 2, go to layout, give it 50%, then go to advanced, unlink the margin values, and then I'm going to type 20 all around for the padding, unlink the values, and give it 0 pixels on the left hand side. Let's click on update, and as you can see, it's working fine. So now if I click, the only thing you don't have is the logo here on top, but that's by choice because it would have made this tutorial even longer. So now when I click, as you can see, it's working fine. Now the last thing to do is to add the video background. So open the home page with Elementor, click on the section here in the navigator, go to the Style tab, and where it says background, instead of the classic image, we're going to click on video. And here I'm just going to paste a video. It's from Nico Gentunen. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, but that's a beautiful video. It's just for the sake of showing you how to add a beautiful video. Of course, give credit where it's due, and I'll put the link to this beautiful video in the description below. Okay, and I'm just going to make it start at 27 seconds, stop at 2:35, and I want it to play on the mobile. Okay, so let's click on update. And now let's go back to the front end. Let me refresh. And as you can see, it's working beautifully. So it works here on the desktop, and when I hover over the blocks, they are clickable. If I open the navigation, it's semi-transparent, so you can still kind of see the video in the background, and I got all the elements. Of course, I could play with the opacity if I wanted to make things more readable, but this tutorial is long enough and I'll let you play with all the tweakings that you want. So I can close this, and now as you can see, it's really beautiful. Now, if I switch to mobile, it works fine. And I can go into iPad mode and it works fine also. Now, of course, the choice of the video is very important, because if you want it to look beautiful, look for a beautiful video. You can get some stock videos, or maybe you can shoot videos yourself, but it's key, it's really important. If you ruin this with a bad video, all of this would have been for nothing. So I hope that you got value out of this tutorial, and I can't wait to see what you're going to come up with. So don't forget, if you haven't got Elementor Pro yet, the affiliate link is in the description below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, as it really helps growing this channel. And if you want more tutorials and just web design stuff, make sure you subscribe and smash the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Now, I know this was a long video, but hey, you don't create professional stuff in 5 minutes. So that's it for this video. Make sure you don't miss the next one. And in the meantime, don't forget to invest in your success.